What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're gonna love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
Welcome back to Top Ins, the show bringing you all the action from the Premier League and SerieA, England and Italy. I am your host Matt, joined by my co-host Dom. Dom, how are you?
I'm great. Happy Thanksgiving early on, but I mean, when people are listening to this, it's either going to be Thanksgiving or it's going to be post-Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to all of you listeners. If you are American or if you celebrate Thanksgiving, I am very thankful for everybody who listens, everybody who supports the pod, and everybody who rates us 5 stars.
Everyone else I'm not thankful for.
No, I'm also grateful for those of you who don't rate us. I'm even thankful for the people who
I'm
rate
thankful
us
for my haters.
low.
They make me grind hard. That's what I'm thankful for.
Yeah, man. Yeah. How are you?
I am doing pretty good. I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving. I'm looking forward to just having a bunch of food. It's a great day for those of us who love to get really uncomfortable with the amount of food. Last year, I almost threw up after Thanksgiving. It was the closest I've ever been.
Really?
Yeah, I had to take a walk. No joke.
You had to take a walk.
No, not
I'll be
even
right
like
back.
that.
Okay.
No, I had to take a walk because I thought I was going to throw up, but I didn't want to do it in the house. I was more comfortable throwing up in the street. I really ate so much last year that I was like in discomfort. Like I was in pain. I'd eaten so much. So I'm going to exercise a little more control this year, not go that crazy. But yeah, that is the type of level. That's the type of shit I be on every Thanksgiving.
Normally I'll just end up taking a nap. I'm the one that gets the itis and sleeps either on the couch or in a chair.
I had trouble sleeping. My stomach was so full. Like it was like hard. It was like hard for me to sleep. So yeah, not doing that again this year. I've learned my lesson.
You know what else I'm thankful for?
What else are you thankful for, Dom?
The end of the international break and the fact that we won't have another for 4 months.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, It's kind of nice knowing that we want it to be interrupted again from club football. International break's okay. It's just, for me, not as fun. I like international games, but it just, I don't know. It doesn't mean as much to us as maybe it does to other countries, other regions where they're like qualifying for Euros and stuff like that. You get some World Cup qualifiers going on over the break. Just didn't have maybe the same feel here.
Apparently it means a lot to Serginho Dest, but
Well, he needs to get his head out of his ass, and I wouldn't mind if he's actually not with the team in March, because that's what he did was very stupid. But we're recapping our fantasy draft. That's what I'm choosing to call this. I don't know what to call this. We picked 10 teams each from both of the leagues that we cover a few weeks ago, and we are going to recap where we are with those decisions. We're going to start with the Premier League because that's where we started our draft with. Just to remind everyone, Dom, you picked Spurs, Manchester City, Newcastle United, Crystal Palace, Manchester United, Fulham, Wolves, Luton Town, Bournemouth, and Sheffield United. I had every other team. I had Arsenal, Liverpool, Aston Villa, Brighton, West Ham, Chelsea, Nottingham Forest, Brentford, Everton, and Burnley. Dom, when I tallied up all of our points gained so far with our teams, it is tight. I'll say that. It is a tight race at this stage of the season. I have 57 points, Dom. You have 55. I think the thing that stands out to me here is that Burnley have not picked up any points in the last little over a month since we picked these. We picked these during the October international break. I put a lot of faith in Burnley. I put a lot of faith in Vincent Kompany. Again, after putting faith in them coming into the year, and I've not been rewarded for that. And I do feel some type of way, because I feel like Vincent Kompany maybe has something personal against me, because he's been the author of some of my worst moments. So I'm getting a little pissed at Vincent Kompany, I have to say.
Yeah. However, you also do have Everton, who, even with the points deduction, I mean, they've still strung together a lot of good quality results. So, they're helping you out right now. I mean, it's tough for you to, really gain some momentum in that bottom fourth of the table, just because I have 3 of the 5 teams. So, it doesn't help when one of your teams gets 0. I don't know what company's direction with Burnley is, but they've got to do something before the alarm bells start going off.
I wonder too if like they're just taking a long-term approach, because obviously like they played really well in the championship last year, but they did have a lot of players on loan, and I wonder if they're just like kind of committing to his style, and maybe with the understanding that they maybe don't stay in the Premier League this year, but maybe it has some payoff for them in future seasons. But I would say, he's not a manager with tons of experience, and I think sometimes we imbue how good he was as a player and that he played for Pep Guardiola, like some of that kind of mixes into our judgment of him, and I don't know that that's fair necessarily, because he hasn't been a successful manager really. When he went to Anderlecht, and there were things outside of his control when he went to Anderlecht, the club itself was having issues, but wasn't a good situation there either. And again, had a good season in the championship, but I don't know. It's been a really mixed bag to his managerial career. I can't help but think of it as like just a regular guy. If it just feels like no one's really being very critical of company in Burnley. I guess it's maybe the expectation for Burnley has always kind of been not very high, but I just feel like for a team that came in after really doing very well in the championship, it just feels like maybe there's not I feel like I listen and read a lot, and I feel like I haven't heard a lot of real criticism of company. It's just supposed to be like, yeah, Burnley have been bad, and that's it. Whereas I feel like if it was, again, just a normal guy that didn't have a big playing career in England, probably would be facing a lot more criticism.
Well, did they have a lot? Were they pretty active in the transfer market over the summer? I
Not really.
Can't recall. Like, I mean, I don't see Did they win the championship? Yes. Yeah, so I mean, they should come in with higher expectations.
Big style too.
I mean,
it was like
and like what we said last year, like with Fulham, normally statistically, the winner of the championship has a pretty good chance of staying in the Premier League, and for Brentford or for Burnley not to be able to string together a couple points here and there is pretty concerning. I agree. I think that if this wasn't like would you call him a Premier League legend?
Company? I think he'd probably have to say so, yeah. He won,
or is he that next step down, the cult hero?
He's definitely not a cult hero. Cult heroes, I would say several steps down. Cult heroes like Dirk Kuyt, right? Like it's like he was never like an amazing player, but just like his personality and his like kind of play lent him to being remembered fondly by like the fan of that team. I would say he's probably a legend of the Premier League. When you consider like the amount of titles he won it as a captain. That's always going to be a bonus to how people remember you. He has one of the iconic moments in that he scores that absolute. I hate talking about this. He has that absolute screamer against Leicester to essentially win Manchester City the title in 18-19. So he has like iconic moments. He's got like the big like running headers that he scored. Like he's probably a legend. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So like maybe that plays into it a little bit. Like maybe the board kind of has a little more faith, wants him to maybe get a couple more years to see and kind of evaluate what he does, because I've heard like things about him in the locker room and stuff about, how he asks a lot out of his players. He's very straightforward and he's a tough coach, but commands a lot of respect from his players and they give it to him, and they kind of buy into what he's trying to sell them. It's just it's tough to do a lot in the Prem when you've got teams that are in the lower half of the table that are spending an exuberant amount of money in the transfer market, and Burnley really isn't doing that.
Yeah. Just looking to at the rest of the table and how it's changed, who's picked up a lot of points. Manchester City and Liverpool have been the two best performers since we made our selections, both of them with 10 points. Aston Villa with 9 points. Manchester United with 9 points. In fact, when I first went to the forum table to do this, it went the week before we made our selections. Manchester United actually had been the best performing team since then. We've talked about Manchester United this season, and it feels kind of doom and gloom, and that you have a little bit of a crisis. Yet, if you look at the form table, they're the best team over the last 5 games in the Premier League somehow, and Ten Hag has had one of the better starts to the first 50 Premier League games of a managerial career. Like, it's kind of strange for Manchester United this season and the way things have kind of shook out for them, because in some ways they've been bad. In some ways they've still gotten results at times. Like, it's been, I think, another kind of languishing season for them. At least it feels that way, because it doesn't really feel like they have a ceiling yet. They're likely not going to bottom out in any significant way, it doesn't feel like. And this has been without, like, reliable goal scoring, and definitely some injuries within the team too. It's not like they've been fully healthy, but yeah, Mason Mount, I read today, has not scored or assisted a goal in 2023. That's shocking.
Yikes.
And he was a big signing for them this summer, and I think we were both curious to see how he's going to fit, because I don't know. Manchester United are just an interesting team. It's just interesting because I think it's very much not the perception that they've been good, yet they've been one of the better performing teams in the Premier League over the last month, and that's I find that funny.
I think that there's a lot of eyes watching what's going on behind the scenes, where who's the company that bought 25% of the club?
Of United?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's United. Where they're making like the decisions that, like, for like who to sell and things like that. I think. I mean, I was
know
listening
the Glazers were like interested in like selling off part of the club, or at least maybe even selling all the club. But I don't think there's been.
I don't think it was all the club, but I'm pretty sure I heard on another podcast that a quarter of the club was sold. No, sorry, I'm getting mixed up with Barcelona. Socios bought 25%, but they are looking to sell part of the club. And there's a lot of people who are very critical of how Manchester United deal with the transfer market. They don't seem to sell players at the right time. They're not like these other clubs that are pretty savvy when it comes to the transfer market. They kind of keep these players to keep the fans on their side and miss out on bigger profits. And then, you get the shit end of these players' tenures and drops their stock in the transfer market. And I mean,
they also pay them big wages, which usually means it's harder. That's Anthony Martial. Is like, it's hard to find someone that's willing to pay what he's owed. That's one of the bigger problems with United as well. Look at Rafa Varane. Like, they're going to be stuck with him for the rest of his deal, and he can't stay healthy, and no one's going to buy him. So it's the same with Harry Maguire. Sorry. It's
great to see that they're getting results. I just don't know.
I wouldn't say it's great. But
well, yeah, obviously. But, I mean, for me, when it comes to this fantasy draft, it's great. But I just don't know how long they'll keep that together.
Yeah.
I mean, every week there's something new coming out of there, some new controversy, some new scandal. And I mean, all this stuff behind the scenes with selling the club. Yeah, it's just.
I think it's like you said, with the eyes on the team, though, is that it generates clicks and attention. They're always going to be a team that has tons of stories written about them, because they're just one of the most popular teams on the planet. So naturally, any story is going to pick up a lot of traction. Fulham only have 1 point since we did this. They were a team that we kind of counted on having sort of a fall back to regression this year, and then they lose Mitrovic, and they haven't really been able to replace his goal scoring. Not necessarily in danger in my mind of relegation, but that is concerning. When you look and see that they have kind of had a really underwhelming past few weeks. So looking to see if that picks up at any point. Spurs only picked up 6 points in this time frame. This is obviously the part where they picked up a lot of injuries and suspensions, had the loss before the international break to Wolves. Wolves, one of your picks, one of your boys, have found a way to pick up points. And Brentford and Everton also, those three have been actually kind of the best performing teams of what was like the bottom third of the Premier League table a month ago. Bournemouth as well, by the way, who it felt like were really circling the drain, have started to pick up points, and I would say the results are coming, but also the performances look good, and it feels like Bournemouth are maybe finding a way to stick around the Premier League for another year. It felt like, they were kind of experimenting a little bit with the manager, looking to play a certain, almost similar to Company, like really identifying a style that they wanted to play and starting with that. And it's starting to pay off for them a little bit because they're finding some life at the bottom of the table. They're out of the relegation zone.
Yeah, I mean, credit to them. They're playing really well, and when a team is hungry like that, and a team strings together a couple results, they're playing some good football. Got to ride the wave,
Do we want to talk about Everton's point deduction? They were deducted 10 points.
What? No, go ahead. Sorry.
So they were deducted 10 points for a breach of financial rules. They overspent, and this is the biggest points deduction punishment that's ever been handed out in England. 10 points is a pretty significant amount, all things considered. When you think about the fact that Juventus got, what did it end up being? Juventus 12 points, I think.
It wasn't 15.
Pushed them out of Europe.
It was originally 15.
And I think it got knocked down to 12 upon appeal. And Juventus was like manipulating money and real more stuff that's like legally very questionable, not just like you're breaking kind of within our own FA's rules. Puts them in an interesting spot in that it obviously pushes them to the relegation zone, but they've been getting results. They look a little better. Obviously, though, like this is, it's going to get appealed, and we don't know. This points deduction maybe doesn't apply this season. Who knows?
Well, what's interesting about it is like each team has like this coefficient, basically, right? And that coefficient is different based off of, the finances that are coming in, the finances that are going out, all that kind of stuff. And basically, like the FA does an audit and the club itself does an audit, and they're allowed a certain discrepancy, but once it passes that like baseline discrepancy, they're in violation of like the Premier League's financial fair play rules. I think Everton had like a £19.1 million, or I forget what it was, but that was about the discrepancy.
Their losses were so great. And
yeah.
What got tricky for them too, and what was part of this is during the COVID year and a half, you're able to like manipulate the money a little bit. Like FFP didn't apply to everything with your losses because obviously like you didn't have attendance and things like that, and some players took like reduction in salaries for that time because of that fact. Like there were certain concessions made that it seemed like Everton thought were. Everton admitted, by the way, that what they did, that they broke a rule. Right? Everton's not really contending that they didn't break a rule, but that the punishment is very harsh, and also that they put this line in their club statement that they're going to await with great interest the results of other investigations into other Premier League teams, aka Manchester City have 115 charges against them. Very curious to see what kind of points deduction they get, because if Everton's getting 10 points for losses, losing too much money and not running sustainably, it makes you wonder, what is Manchester City going to get? Which is ultimately nothing, which is like the frustrating part. But
so like I was on the Athletics podcast. They talked about this week, and they, they're talking about, essentially write-offs, right? Things that can help you close that gap on that discrepancy and kind of write off certain or what's it called? Like good expenditure, like basically good expenditures. Like I know that they got Everton has clearance for a new stadium build and things like that. And that will bring more revenue in. So that's a good expense, right? That's not something that you can be penalized for in your losses. And they're kind of working on that to help bridge that gap. When it comes to City, first off, their bookkeepers must be impeccable when it comes to figuring out what can be written off and how to, work the books so the losses don't seem that much, i.e. like Juventus, but Juventus was kind of sloppy with it and they got caught. Essentially with City, what they have to do is prove that City's lying, and that's a lot harder to do. You need years and years of investigation and evidence in order to do that. And like you said, ultimately would seem unlikely that City would see any type of punishment, at least in this season, right? It would if you're
They're
expecting,
never gonna see punishment.
yeah,
I'm gonna
if
tell
you're
you right now, they're never gonna get punished for what they've done, which is way more blatant, way more overt. They have these sponsorships that come in from fake companies that are funded by their state-run owners, and they get unlimited money. It's ridiculous.
that's
They have
what
the
I
highest
mean.
revenue in the world. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. It's
And
all
that's
bullshit. It's all made up.
why do you think Newcastle hasn't gone crazy in the transfer market? Because
Well,
they are trying to make sure that they don't get these types of penalties on them.
Interestingly, too, there was a vote over this past week about whether or not clubs were able to loan in players from teams that the club ownership also owned, aka Newcastle wanted to loan in players that were playing in the Saudi league. Or that
Yeah, I
were
heard
owned
that
by
got
these Saudi
voted down.
teams. No, it passed. They did not. It was 13-7, and I guess with the way the majority rules work,
To
it's actually
allow it?
allowed now. Yes. So 7 teams voted that they wanted that. They wanted that ability. Newcastle was obviously one of those teams. I mean, Chelsea, Manchester City. There's obviously a few others, but those were like the big three because also, funnily enough, those teams own other teams. Weird. The Premier League has really created a huge problem for itself in terms of legitimacy, and I think it's going to become. I worry about what it's going to become in the next 10 years because you're going to have these teams that are able to spend recklessly as much money as they want because they're backed by an entire government and do whatever they feel like, break any rule. You're seeing it with Everton fans now, and I don't blame them for being frustrated the fact that they're getting deducted 10 points, yet Manchester City have these charges hanging over their head for the last 10 months, and nothing's happened to them. It's very clearly when you have a bunch of lawyers and spend a bunch of money, and you don't cooperate with the investigation, that you get to go on and win a treble, win all these things, buy all these players, do all this stuff, and get treated as European royalty. And what's the benefit to not doing it? It just it sucks.
So I have a question. I'm not completely well versed with the TV rights deals, unless in England it's a sole, because I know that they broadcast the different channels based off of whatever country they're in. Is it per club or does the league handle it solely? Because I know in Spain, certain teams have the right to sell their own deals. That's like what Barca did with the financial levers and stuff.
Barca, I think, sold the rights to Barca TV. So in Spain it was a problem, and I'm not super well versed, but in Spain it was a problem before where in the Premier League everyone gets an even cut.
It's like an equal distribution. Yeah, Barca gets
just
more
for being
than
in the
smaller
Premier League.
teams.
I think you get 120 million, just for being. That's why it's so lucrative. It's a crazy amount of money. That is just for being in the league. You get that from the TV rights. In Spain, it used to be that the top Real Madrid and Barcelona essentially got 70% of the money, and then everyone else got a certain amount. And I think they're working to restructure that. But yeah, in the Premier League, you get a whatever it is, whatever the TV deal that they sign, it gets cut into 20, and everyone gets that, and everyone's happy.
Yeah, because I was going to say, and it could make sense that some of these bigger teams, if they get a little bit more of a cut, they sell it. They sell the rights to it. They give a specific percentage of that money to another company. Because that's what Barca did. They sold the rights to something. Yeah, like Barca TV or something like that. And it was for a 6-year period or a 10-year period or something to a U.S. hedge fund. That is crazy kind of stuff going on in Spain. But at least we're not seeing that type of shady business going on in England. But I mean, there's more than enough.
I would argue that you
see more. you see it in different ways, and yeah, it does provide an issue because when these bigger teams are able to fudge the books, and I mean, we focus so much on City because of their success, but I mean, Chelsea's not innocent either.
Chelsea's also going to have they're doing some Abramovich stuff and investigating, and they're going to get punished for that. And we'll see what happens with Chelsea as well.
Yeah.
City, yeah, like you said, because of their success, I think. But with City, it's such an obvious thing, whereas Chelsea, we're kind of the first team in England to do this. Have like a very rich owner, just spend a ton of money and worry about it later. But yeah, let's switch to Italy, Dom, where we had another really close race in our fantasy draft. To remind our listeners, Dom, you picked Milan, Fiorentina, Napoli, Atalanta, Monza, Lazio, Torino, Genoa, Udinese, and Empoli. I had Inter, Juventus, Frosinone, Lecce, Roma, Bologna, Sassuolo, Hellas Verona, Salernitana, and Cagliari. Dom, you had 56 points in this time frame. I had 54. So both of us a 2-point margin in the respective arenas. I think the biggest one off the top is I had both teams in both leagues with 0 points since then. I had Hellas Verona, who have really let me down, have let themselves down. And I don't know if I get some kind of apology. I would take an email. I would take something. I would take a tweet, a Twitter DM, apologizing for putting my faith in this team and them just really, really dogging me down like that.
I think that the biggest thing that stands out to me is in that first quadrant of 5. You have 2 teams, I have 3, and your 2 teams have scored double the total points that my 3 teams have put together. It's not looking good for Milan and Napoli or Fiorentina right now. 5 points between the both of them since we've done this. And how many weeks ago was this show? Over a month ago.
Yeah, this is just 5. I think there have been 5 games or 4 games since then. So.
Yeah, 2 points in 4 or 5 games for Milan and 3 points in the same amount of games for Fiorentina is just not ideal, especially in a quadrant where you expect those teams to string together quite a few points. I mean, in the Premier League table, the lowest point total in that same quadrant of 5 teams at the top was 6. So, like that's kind of crazy. But with that being said, I think we're dead even in the middle quadrant. I think. If the math I'm looking at is correct, because we both have a team that's 7, and then your 2 teams add to 5, which is my other team. So we're deadlocked in that second quadrant. And like you said, the third in the last quadrant, you have the team with 0. So that doesn't help out at all. And in that third one, the 3 teams that I have are kind of all within similar form, right? Lazio, Torino, Genoa. Lazio and Genoa have been playing very, very well. Torino, sneaky. I'll give you credit. Bologna, I'm a little disappointed I wasn't able to get my hands on them in my draft because they're going to be good. They're going to continue that good run of form, I think. So
yeah. No love for Cagliari, bottom of the table with 2 points, picked up 7 points since then. Have been one of the better teams in Italy by form over the past month or so. That's been a nice little come up for me. I thought that was going to save my chances in this. Unfortunately, still lagging behind. But
Verona's screwing you, man.
Yeah, Hellas Verona. We're gonna have a chat here and there. Yeah, we both picked Roma. I picked Roma. You picked Lazio. I think with the intention that we kind of expected them to pick it up through the course of the season, and they still obviously could. They've done, I think, about where you'd expect. I think you can maybe expect them to do a little better, but they were good value picks for where they were at the table at the time that we made our selection. I think Inter and Juventus are definitely the 2 biggest stories because they've really become the 2 title challengers as we've broken into this international break, and both of them perfect on that run and just how good they've looked, especially Inter, who've just been kind of making it all look very fun, very easy.
If Lecce...
Milan at the top have really fallen off, I want to say. But
this is related to that. If Lecce would have got that win versus Milan, you would have had a 1-point lead on me in this.
That's the margins right there.
Mm-hmm.
That is the margins right
VAR helping me out a little bit. So
yeah, well, I expect that from you. I expect
love that.
I expect corruption and.
Whoa. What?
I just think it's fair to question. I'm just asking
What?
questions. That's all I'm doing. I'm just asking.
Come on now. Don't bring all this back. This is giving shadows of 2 seasons ago. Not from you, but from what I've dealt with online. Milan and the VAR and the pens and this and that and oh my goodness.
I don't know. I just got some questions. It's Italy after all, you know.
We are not the zebras, okay? We are not the old lady as they call them. That's where your cheating scandals need to be looking at.
So we will check in again with our fantasy draft in the future to see where we're at. It's tight. Like I said, it's fun. It's fun because it's pretty competitive. I don't remember being this close last year. We had the World Cup, so there was more games, so we had like a bigger sample size. But I don't remember the margin being as close as it is now. So looking forward to seeing how that develops. Looking at this weekend, we talked about it a little bit this past week, but just wanted to chat about it a little bit more because we have 2 top-of-the-table clashes at the weekend. Manchester City versus Liverpool early in the morning for us on Saturday, and then Juventus versus Inter. I believe that's afternoon on Sunday, I want to say. We get that game. 2 big title games, honestly. I mean, there's really no other way of putting it. Manchester City, Liverpool. These 2 teams have just so much history over the last 6 years. It's kind of insane. There's really only 2 seasons in that time frame. I wouldn't even say 2. There's really only 1 season in that time frame where this hasn't been a game with title implications. You know, like it's just and even then I wouldn't even say the full season. Like it's just every time these teams play, either they're both locked in for the title race with each other, or one of them is in a title race, right? Like that's just the way it's been. And even beyond that, you had they played the FA Cup semifinals. One of Jurgen Klopp's first, I think actually his first trophy loss was Manchester City in the League Cup final. Played them in the Champions League, and that was obviously like an iconic win for Liverpool. It's just they have tons of history. I hate watching these games and simultaneously love them because there's so much anxiety, but they're also always high quality, always really good. I think it's going to be a great game, generally.
I mean, when you're talking margins as well, like, let's say City lose this game. Arsenal play Brentford, and then Villa and Spurs play each other this week as well, where, like, let's say Villa and Arsenal win. City ends up down in, like, 4th. They go from 1st to 4th. Arsenal would be ahead of them. Villa would be tied on points with them. So actually maybe City drops to 3rd because of goal differential. But, you know, you're talking super close margins. And I mean, to the same kind of drum, like if City were to increase their lead at the top of the table, and let's say Arsenal wins, and let's say that Villa wins, then Liverpool drops down to like 4th. So it's high stakes for both teams. These are 2 of the best teams in the Premier League, even if not the 2 best teams. It's always going to be electric. It's going to be a great game to watch. You do not want to miss it. I'm curious who's out for this game. Do you know, is Kevin De Bruyne back? I haven't really been.
De Bruyne is not supposed to be back until close to the new year. Haaland is questionable coming into this. He's had this ankle injury for the last few weeks and then kind of tweaked it on the international break. I would bet that he plays, honestly. Like he's playing in my mind. Ederson, I think, has an injury. I know defender-wise for Liverpool, Konate and Gomez, not clear on whether or not they're going to be playing. I think Nathan Ake has an injury as well. So there's definitely, like, I wouldn't say these teams are at, like, their full squad health, and John Stones, I think, is questionable. A lot of these guys will probably end up playing, if we're being honest. Once we get to press conferences for both teams, once everyone gets back, because everyone's not even back from international break just yet. We'll probably get a better idea of who's actually playing. But yeah, it's unlikely we'll see these teams at like their full ability. But Haaland would be a big miss. You know, like
Luis Diaz in good form.
Yeah,
Luis Diaz in great form right now.
Darwin Núñez also in good form. Scored a beautiful goal for Uruguay. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And Darwin Núñez, I think, I love the guy, and he's like he's just one of my favorites, and I pray that he has some kind of big impact on this game because brother, does he need it? I think he's a
At the
guy that
club
really,
level, yeah.
I think he just like he had that like maverick performance against Newcastle where he brings us back and wins that game practically single-handed. So he has that kind of game-breaking ability. So I'm looking forward to that one. Always a fun one. In Italy, we have Inter versus Juventus. This has been a game that has given us. It's hard to think of like a lot of iconic moments in recent times, but is kind of like Derby dell'Italia. It's two of the better clubs in Italy facing off, two very historic clubs, it's not the early season title race game that maybe we would have expected. I don't know that a lot of people really considered Juventus to be involved in a title race this year. It remains to be seen if they actually will be. But this is the first kind of stop on their roadmap to a potential title race is trying to beat Inter at home.
I mean, do you think that these teams take this one? I mean, obviously it's a derby, right? But like with both of them not being able to be reached in the table by even the third place team, do you think that they kind of like are like, all right, I mean, it's not the biggest, it's not the end of the world if we lose. I mean, if Inter loses, Juventus only goes up by a point. If Juventus loses, I mean, yikes. Yeah, they're going to be down by 5 points. So maybe Juventus takes this a little more serious. And Inter, I could see this ending in a draw, to be honest with you. Like a 1-1 draw, maybe a 2-2 if it starts popping off. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this one ends in a draw. Just because, Inter may go into cruise control. And Juventus is just trying to fight back, maybe maybe a little catenaccio as they call it, little Mourinho era parking the bus after going up by a goal. So
the last draw that they had in the league was in 2021, a 1-1 draw. They played in the Coppa Italia last year in the semifinals. The first leg of that was a draw, but yeah, it's usually. And it's been pretty split, honestly, over the last few seasons between the two. Usually kind of one team, splits. Like it's been kind of a pretty even affair over the last few years, so it's hard to call. Inter have looked like the best team, so far this year. Juventus have found kind of a way to win the games. But I wouldn't say, if you're doing like style points, I wouldn't say Juventus have racked up a lot of them, whereas Inter have. But we've seen Juventus take that pragmatic approach, like you mentioned, and it worked for them. And it's worked for them this season. It's worked in seasons past. Last year, I didn't think necessarily, without the points deduction, they would have been a Champions League team. It didn't necessarily feel that way all the time when you watch them. But I think you have to make your peace with the fact that Juventus do find ways to win games. And
it's the beauty but confusing thing of Allegri ball. Like it's not pretty. It's sometimes boring, but somehow, some way, they always get results. It's just how it is,
Yeah.
I don't know how he does it.
Black magic, honestly. You mentioned Spurs and Villa in the Premier League. We also have Milan versus Fiorentina in SerieA as well. So some pretty good games to consider for the weekend.
Two teams not in the best form, trying to turn it around. So yeah, that's gonna be a very interesting one.
Yeah, very meaningful game. And besides Villa and Spurs at the weekend, you got Newcastle Chelsea as well. That's a good one. And Brentford Arsenal. That's always fun. Everton Manchester United always feels like I feel like a lot of the Everton United games I watch over the years have had a lot of like drama around them. There's always been something I feel like that comes out of those games, or at least they're pretty entertaining. So it's actually looking like a pretty good slate this weekend for the games. I just wanted to touch on, since we're just coming out of the international break, we did have Euro qualifying finish up. We have almost all of our teams that will be competing in the Euros this summer. Italy did make it. There was some concern about whether or not they were actually going to qualify for the technically the reigning Euro champions. So right now, the teams that are in it are Albania, Austria, Belgium, Germany, of course, being the host, Croatia, Czechia, Denmark, England, France, Hungary, Italy, the Netherlands, Portugal, Romania, Scotland, Serbia, Slovakia, Slovenia. Is that what that is? Yeah, Slovenia, Spain, Switzerland, and Turkey. And then we still have some of the playoffs to go through. So nothing is fully broken down just yet. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the Euros. The Euros are a lot of fun. They give you like good quality games and something to chew on in the summer when you're sort of desperate for more. And I think we get the group draws December 2nd. We obviously won't know who's all in the tournament until March when they play out the remaining qualifying fixtures, the knockouts. But it's going to be a good one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's some drama going on in Italy right now with their striker selection. Scamacca was getting yelled at by Spalletti to wake up. A lot of fans were calling for Raspadori to be the starter and then the first choice up top. And then you got Mario Balotelli kind of chiming in over social media or through the media saying that, he thinks that, if he was still playing with the national team, he's the best striker in Italy and what Italy has to offer, and they would have more wins if he was playing up top for them, which I saw you chuckle. So, yeah.
It just reminds me of that Chappelle skit where he's like, "Where's Ja Rule? I need Ja Rule's opinion." It's like we need Mario Balotelli's opinion.
Listen, this isn't Euro 2012 anymore, man. Like this is not the same Mario Balotelli. And I will say that. And I'm the biggest Balotelli apologist there is, probably. So, yeah, he can stay home. Tough blow for Norway. They officially out of this, right?
Yeah, they didn't even make the playoffs.
Yeah, so that's a tough blow for them, especially given some of the talent that they have. I mean, they have one of the most talented, attacking mids in world football and one of the best number 9s in world football. And to not be able to, help lead your nation to a major tournament is tough, right? It's tough for your legacy. It's tough for your stock as a player. So, tough blow for them.
Yeah, the playoff teams are Poland, Wales, Estonia, Israel, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Georgia, Greece, Kazakhstan, and Luxembourg are the playoff teams that have to be sorted through still. So in mid-March, we'll get Georgia versus Luxembourg, Greece versus Kazakhstan, and then they'll progress through and close that out. I think the favorites out of those, probably Poland and Wales, I think would be
have to be, right?
I would pick
I'd love to see Georgia make it.
Georgia would be cool.
Get a little Kvaradona.
Bosnia and Greece. Bosnia, they don't have quite the top level talent they used to. Maybe 5 or 6 years ago, if you have a more younger, athletic Dzeko, Pjanic, you can kind of imagine something.
A few little ballers there.
We had Juric on that team too. He was a lot of fun.
What was the other guy's name? He was young at the time with those guys, but mainly played in Germany. He's like a forward. I think he played for not Wolfsburg, the other one with the green W.
Werder Bremen.
Yeah.
Let's find out.
He's not. I don't think he's Bosnian nationality anymore. Okay. That's FIFA knowledge coming in. I think he plays for Cyprus now, but I can't remember his name.
You lost me.
He doesn't play for Werder Bremen anymore. I know that too, but he plays for Cyprus. Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. Cyprus national team is just kind of listen. I'm a freak, but I don't know if I got that one.
Can we give a small shout out to the San Marino national team's Twitter account?
They
and
had one of
how
their better qualifying
Yo,
runs, by the way,
yo,
too.
yo, they were going nuts every time they scored a goal. They were all
Well, they
caps.
just scored
We
2
scored!
goals
Oh my
in back-to-back games for the first time in quite a while.
It's crazy.
And that's kind of the victory laps they have to take. Yeah, San Marino's always a fun one to kind of enjoy.
Oh
During
man.
this stage, yes, Cyprus. I'm not seeing names that jump off the page to me here, if I'm being honest. Of the squad, no one that.
Oh God. Just to if you're while you're looking, I'm gonna fill in some SerieA news that I'm seeing right now. I don't know what.
9 p.m. By the way, if you have another request,
What? I did not ask for that. What the? Excuse me. Somebody is saying that Rafael Varane is linked to Juventus, Inter, and Roma. Those are just rumors. A little more solidified stuff. Christian Pulisic is back training with AC Milan. That's nice. Timothy Weah is not available versus Inter, which is a big blow for Juventus. Liverpool eyeing a little coup in January for Nicolo Barella, but I know that Inter's trying to lock him down with a big
I'm going to tell you right now, I would shit myself if we saw that. It's not happening. It's not happening. There's no chance of that happening.
Zaccagni is back for Lazio, so that's nice for them. Yeah. So that pretty much everything else is like wage bill rankings and things like that. So that seems to be like the top stories coming out of Italy right now. If I do a quick little look at the top stories from the Premier League.
Well, I couldn't find your mystery Cyprus man.
I'll come back to it next week. I'll let you guys know next week. All right, listen.
Something to look forward to. I appreciate it.
All right. Mainly, we've talked about the big news, right? Which is the point deduction for Everton, and then other teams getting called out and all that kind of stuff. So, Ruben Neves being targeted by Premier League clubs, but says he has no interest in returning to the Premier League.
Why would he? He's getting paid tons of money to play low stakes football.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much it. That's about it. So, I just had something pop in my head. I was gonna ask you, but I saw something on Twitter, saying, do you think that there should be? And I feel like we've talked about this, but do you think there should be some sort of punishment or fine for either inconsistent or unacceptable refereeing in the major leagues? Yeah, for referees.
I mean, there is punishment. They do get demoted from stuff and taken off games and not selected for for playoffs and things like that. So I would say that there are. I remember reading, because there's been a lot of talk about VAR. I think referees, they said the linesman got 98% of the offside decisions correct, and the main referee in football was getting 92% of on-field decisions correct.
Mm-hmm.
That's a crazy number.
That's a really good percentage.
I don't care what industry field you're in, you're not doing your job 98% correct all the time. You just aren't. There's always a rule that you're breaking. I don't know. It just.
I can attest to that.
It's a hard position. It's a hard job, and should they face punishment when they mess up? Yeah, in every job, right? You have to. There's got to be consequences, but it's tough, and that's why VAR. This is my whole beef with VAR is it's the people controlling it. The tool itself should be helping referees, and I think it's actually creating a weird kind of wedge, and I think maybe some openness would help. Who knows? But I think refs on the whole are very good, and I think people have a tendency just to blow up at the terrible decisions, which they are terrible. And in an age now where you have review, you should see less of them. But That's
Yeah.
that's the human element of the game. Dom, anything to say before we get out of here? Normally on a Thanksgiving Eve, we'd be getting drunk in a unnamed
old for that.
location.
We're too
Way
old
too
for
old
that
for
now.
that. Much too old. I can't even imagine what it would be like to be getting ready right now to go out. at
It's
9
the
o'clock.
Super Bowl of small talk. That's what it is. A lot of
How you been? Good.
how you been? What you
Good,
up
man.
to?
Good.
Yo, we should hang out sometime. Never
We'll
happened.
absolutely not link up, my friend. Absolutely no one.
Yeah. Prayers up to Eduardo Camavinga. Had a pretty serious, I think, knee injury
Gavi
in
as
training.
well.
Yeah,
tore his
Gavi as well.
ACL, So that sucks.
Super tough. And brings up the questions of the amount of games being played in a calendar year again and all that kind of stuff, and the usage that these players are seeing and yada yada yada. But yeah, prayers out to those guys. Hope for a speedy recovery for each of them. Two young talents that have bright futures ahead of them, and you hate to see a player like that go down. So yeah, man, just I hope that everybody enjoys or has enjoyed by the time you're listening to this has enjoyed your Thanksgiving if you celebrate, and if not, I hope you enjoyed your extended holiday weekend, and yeah, we'll catch you next week.
Yeah, we'll talk to you next week. I hope you. Hey, maybe you're into eating so much you feel like you're gonna throw up and die. If in that case, I hope that you get what you're looking for. For me, I'm saying this. I know myself, and I know that I'm not going to be able to control myself tomorrow, and I'm probably going to slam like 3 pieces of pumpkin pie after 3 servings of food, and I made turnovers, so I'm going to have 1 of each. I'm going to be in hell tomorrow, I think, but it's going to be worth it. I'm going to be in a good place.
I saw the pumpkin pie that Monica just made.
Dude,
I stopped by my mom's house earlier today. I saw the apple pie that my mom's apple pie. I could eat a whole thing. If it's straight out the fridge, if it's cold, oh my god, dude.
Dude, I actually have enough pie filling to make another pumpkin pie, and I'm going Friday after work. We're gonna pick up another pie crust and bake up another pumpkin pie just for me, because no joke. It'll be gone by Monday. It'll be my breakfast. I'll wake up and have pumpkin pie for breakfast.
Do you like apple pie?
Oh, apple pie's amazing.
Warm or cold?
I think it's better warm, but warm with some ice cream on top. Let's not get crazy. Come on.
Okay.
Cold is good too. I don't
but see,
think
you need the ice cream. You need the ice cream
wrong,
to make the warm acceptable.
There's no wrong.
You see,
there's no wrong way, I think, to eat apple pie. I don't think this is something that you have. It's not like pouring milk in before the cereal or something. Like, you can go cold or hot. I think whatever your conditions allow. I think even just like the apple pie you get from the grocery store that's already like in the plastic tin, amazing. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good for the economy. Hurts nobody. Helps everybody. Even the store-bought pumpkin pie, if it works for you, go for it. Mm-hmm. Go for it. It's $5. What do you have to lose other than $5? Nothing. Eat the whole thing. Nobody's going to judge you. I won't. We'll see you next week when I've gained 17 pounds. Talk to you then.